Hello and welcome to my channel Making Crafts. So it's Tuesday again, so it's time for another rubber buggy project. And so I've pulled out a bunch of things that I'm going to use, and this is just going to be an experiment today. We're going to experiment and play, and hopefully we'll come out with a beautiful project in the end. So these are some of the things that I pretty much think I want to use, but I may not use them all. As we go along, we'll see what we use. But I did pull out several of the pigment powders. So this is the indigo blue ones. I pulled out the mermaid teal, the ballet slipper, and then just teal. I don't know if I'll use them all, but these are just some of the colors I thought went well with the my focal points. So my focal points are going to be some of the rub-ons from the 49 & Market Vintage Artistry Tranquility. I can't talk today. And these are rub-ons. I'm having trouble reading and talking today. I'm also probably going to add these in. I laid them aside just in case I want to use them. And these are just some of the Distress crayons by Tim Holtz. And I want to use some of this heavy body paste by Stamperia. And then I have the 49 & Market washi tape, and this is the Tranquility washi tape, and you get 4 rolls in here, so you get a really wide roll, and that's what we're probably going to use today, a lot of that. And then you get a really small, medium, and larger roll, as you can see by the, and I'm talking about, when I talk about the size, I'm talking about the width of them. They all look like they have the same amount on them, it's just the width that is different. So I'm going to be using that today. And then I have this new stencil I haven't even tried yet from Ciao Bella, and this came from the rubber buggy as well, and so I'm going to try it today. I've put down a piece of parchment paper just to protect my surface and just have something to pour my paint on and to mix things on. So, and then I'll probably pull in some acrylic paint and a few other things, and we're also going to be using some book pages. So as far as the products that I use today, I will link below to all of these that I've showed you, and if I pull anything else out, I will link to those in the description if you're interested in any of them. And so we're just going to pull out some book pages. I don't think I need that picture on it, so let's find some with just words. I'm really just wanting words on my page. So let's just, oops, I got 2 pages at a time. It's harder to tear them out when you have 2 at a time, but they're sticking together. So this is just an older dictionary. It's not a, well, it's probably considered vintage, but it's not an antique, I guess I should say. I think it's probably, it may not, I'm not sure if it's vintage or not. Let's see. I think it's from 1991. So it's old, but it's not that old. So I'm using it for this project. And if you saw my video several weeks ago, I made some large pocket envelopes to store my journal supplies in. Let me set this aside for now. I don't need the parchment yet. But I made some larger pockets to store my junk journal supplies in, and like if I'm working on a kit and I want to lay out some supplies for it. So today we're going to make one of those, but it's going to be a little different. We're going to make it smaller, and we're going to make it with some different materials, and it's going to be small enough but large enough to fit in, well, it's going to hold, excuse me, let me clean that off first. Okay, so I've got this cleaned up now. So what I was saying was that the envelope pouch is going to be large enough to fit one of my journals that I make. And so my journals normally measure about, the cover measures about 6 by 9. So I'm going to make this envelope pouch about, I'm thinking maybe 10 by 7.5 by 10 or 7.5 by 11. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to pull out a journal and make sure. So I want to make a big piece of paper to work with that I can cut down. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking my book pages, my dictionary pages. You can use anything like this. These are very thin pages, and so I love using these for projects. And this is just, like I showed you, an older dictionary. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer these pages up just by gluing them together. I'm going to crisscross them and layer them so that I get a thick enough piece to cut apart and use to make our pouch. So that's what I'm working on now. It's just getting these glued up together. Now I'm using Fabri-Tac. My bottle's about to, I think it's getting emptier, but I am using just some Fabri-Tac glue. You could use art glitter glue, or you could actually use some of the Stamperia collage glue. That works good as well. I used mine the other day. I'm not sure where I put it, but yeah, you could use that. So we're just going to crisscross our pages. We want to make several layers up, so I'm just going to crisscross there. And then we're going to decorate these up using the stencils and all the different things. So I've gone ahead and I've made up several of the sheets for the pouch, and this is the only one that I need to make now. So I am making this one with you, and then we will move on to the next part. But I wanted you to see how to do this, just in case you did not see the other video that I put out the other week. And in that one I made a very large one that held a little bit larger than 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. I may need to thin my glue a little bit. Sometimes you have to thin your Fabri-Tac. It does get a little bit of thicker. And so you just thin it down with a little bit of acetone, like fingernail polish remover. So this is a really fun project to do, and it is a way to use up old book pages and things that you have. If you do not have any dictionary pages, you could use, I think, magazines for this, catalogs, you know, even newspapers. If you had old newspapers, you could glue them together. But anything that's thin, whenever, you got to look at the book pages that you have. If yours are thicker book pages, you may not want to layer as much as I am, or if they're thinner or more fragile, you would want to layer more. Now, I will tell you, you don't want to, for this project, you don't want to use any antique book pages that are fragile, as in like when you fold them in half like this, if they crack or anything, you don't want to use those because they're not going to be a sturdy enough pouch for your journal. So you do want to be sure that you're using paper that's going to be sturdy enough. And so this paper is, it's older book, but the paper is still very strong. It's just thinner pages. They're kind of like, if you've not seen these older dictionaries, it's kind of like the pages in a Bible or something like that. It's a thinner pages, so that's why I layer them up like this to create the envelope. So I keep filling of it to see if I think it feels thick enough, and if I feel a spot that I feel like I need to add more glue or more paper, because like these flaps are loose, so I'm just going to add a little glue there. Now, I'm not worrying about getting so much glue on here because we are going to decoupage this when we get done, so it will glue these pieces together as well. And I'm going to sew around mine. So if you're not going to sew around yours, then you may want to be sure that you coat yours really well with glue, because I'm going to sew around my edges and things, so I think mine will be fine. I think that's thick enough on all of it to start my envelope pocket. So once I had those pieces collaged together and layered up, now you could just use just cardstock if you wanted to. I just enjoy using the dictionary pages and having that as my background. So once I have those collaged up, then I cut them down to 11 in the width by 9 inches tall. And then I cut my flap 11 by, let me see, I don't remember how, I just eyeballed the height, by 4.5. I think that's going to be a good height to flap over. So now for the flap, let's go ahead and let's trim off our corners. So all I'm going to do is just take the paper and just fold it over and then just trim the corners off. And that way, if you fold them together like that, then they'll match on each side. And so there we have our flap and then our front and back of our envelope. So now it's time to start playing and decorating up our envelope and see, we'll decorate it up and then we'll sew it together and glue it together and everything. I do have a little uneven edge there. I'm just going to trim that off. So I am going to start out by using some white acrylic paint first. And this is just an old bottle of acrylic paint that I've had for a long time. And I'm just going to do that and you could use gesso for this as well. You could use the acrylic paint or the gesso, But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll some paint on. If you don't have a roller, just paint yours on. You could sponge it on. All I'm trying to do is cover up some of the wording so that it's just not so much in your face. You know, you can see it in the background, but also the paint is covering up some of it. So, you know, it doesn't look just like a dictionary pages in your face once you get done. Now, I use the roller just because it's easier for me to spread the paint across, but I think a sponge would work too. A paintbrush would work. The roller is a little bit faster for me since I am filming, and I enjoy using the roller. I think that's one of the reasons I use the roller too, is I kind of enjoy using it. And you can see my pages are wrinkling up really bad when I add paint to them, but that's okay because when they start to dry, they flatten out a lot, and it's not a problem. And so if yours start to wrinkle up, don't worry about it. Just keep working with it and it will get better. You just don't want to get too wet with paint because it will take a while to dry, but it'll also wrinkle it even more. So all of my pieces are fairly dry. I did put paint on the front and back of the flap. You don't have to do that. I'm just not sure which side I want to use. And then I've also, you know, inked these. I mean, not ink. I keep calling it ink. It's acrylic paint. I put acrylic paint on them. Now, I do want to say, if you have some curling up like this, you can add more glue and put them down, or you can wait until we decoupage it, and that will hold it down too. So that's what I'm going to do, is wait till we decoupage it. So I want to start out first by stenciling. So I'm going to start with my new stencil, and I think that I will use some of this heavy body paste with these colors in the stencil. So let's try some of those and see. So what I want to do is I just need to get a little spatula to mix it up. I'm just going to get a little bit of, let's start out with the blue. I'm going to get a little bit of the pigment powders onto my mat. That may have been a little bit too much, but we'll see. And then I'm going to add some of the heavy body paste. So this paste is thick, so, you know, it is a little hard to get out, but you just want to mix it up. So I'm just going to mix it. So you can always add more pigment powder if you can't get it the right color. So I do apologize for the dog in the background. She's fussy. I think she doesn't want me crafting today. She wants me to go and cuddle with her in the chair, but I really want to get this project done. I want to give it a try, so I'm trying to craft, but she is quite fussy today. These animals here are very spoiled. So that's a very light, I don't even know if you can see how light that is, it is a blue. It's a light blue, and I think because of the colors in this pack, I think I want to keep it with that light color just to see. So I'm just going to put my stencil, and I'm not going to fill in the whole stencil. I'm just going to randomly stencil across here because I'm not sure exactly yet where I want to put my washi tape. So I'm just going to stencil first. Sometimes I would decorate and put the washi tape and then stencil. I think I just made a mess there, but I'm just going to, this time I'm just going to stencil, and then we'll figure out where our washi goes. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, I like that. That's very pretty. And then maybe a little bit over here. Just a little bit onto all around. We're just going to mix it around some. I love playing with mixed media items, but I do not claim to be a mixed media artist because I just like playing and experimenting. I really don't know what I'm doing some days. I'm just playing. And I think that's the best thing, is if you just jump in and play sometimes with these products, you can, even if you do not know exactly how to use them, you can figure out ways to use them. And, you know, the way I use them may not always be the correct way, but I'm having fun and I like what it comes out, so that's all that matters. So now let's set that one aside, let it dry before we do any more on it, and then we're going to take and work on this one. We're going to add some stencil into this one as well. And we may come back and add more once we put our washi on, but I just kind of want to get a little bit going around the front and back, and then we'll come back and we can add more if we want more on it. Okay, let's just peel that. Oops, I got my finger in the other one. So that's pretty. And put some on this corner here. Okay, there we go. I do like that. It's very light, but that's how we wanted it. And then I'm just going to stencil the flap real quick while this one's drying. I want all the sides to get, you know, all the pieces to go together. So I'm just putting a little bit of the same thing on each, you know, piece, on the back, on the front, and then on the flap. There we go. I'm not sure if I'm going to add the other colors in yet. I'm just going to, I haven't made a sample for this. I'm just, like I said today, I'm just experimenting and playing. I did, you know, make one of these envelopes and for storage several weeks ago, but I used all different types of products on it. So this one is just an experiment to see, because I had fun making that envelope, so I really wanted to try another one, but maybe a smaller size. So that's why I'm trying this today. So I've gone and rinsed my stencil, and you're supposed to air dry this, this heavy body paste, and so I did use my heat tool just a little bit, but I held it up really high off of it and not right down on it so I didn't mess it up. I'm not sure if it would. It is still a little tacky, but I want to go ahead and start deciding where my washi is going to go before I add the next thing, because I was looking at it and thinking, if I keep adding a lot, I'm not sure where the washi will go. So I do want, because I do want to use some of this wider washi, and it's already been, I tore it by accident, but I think I'm going to embrace that tear and then try to pull it up with it. Let's see here. If I want to, I'm thinking maybe taking and putting a little bit right in here. I'll just hang it off the edge and then I can trim it. And I'm just embracing the tear, but then I want to come back and have the full width eventually. So let's see if I can get it back to its full width. If that makes sense. And if we don't like it, we'll pull it off and start over. But this one is fairly sticky. This washi tape is sticky, so you do want to kind of have an idea where it's going. Okay, just trying to see here what I think about it. If I want to finish tearing this down, kind of tear it to the side there, kind of like that. We'll see. And I'm going to just press it down so I get all the wrinkles out and all the crinkles. Now, if this isn't dry, this is dry enough here. This is really dry, because if not, you would be smearing it everywhere, so you do want to be careful. I got to thinking after I put the texture paste that you're going to see it through the washi, but I'm okay with that. So let me get my scissors and trim it off. There we go. So that is our first piece of washi on there. And then I'm thinking I do want to add thinner, but I'm not sure where I want to add it. Maybe, oops, you know what I'm going to have to do? I think I'm going to have to move that aside so I don't get so messy. I am very messy when I get to doing things like this. So let me set that aside, and then we will add the washi. So I think I'm just going to put a piece right on the edge here. I'm not going right very to the edge. I am leaving some of the white because we are going to sew it, so some of that will be, that white will be hidden. It'll be, well, no, actually it's going to be on the outside. It won't be hidden. So forget what I just said, but I may add some color there or something. I'm just putting it not all the way to the edge. Now it does look a little crooked, but it may be too late. Yep, I'm not pulling it back up because that is super tight, so we'll just leave it. I think it'll be okay. And then we have these two. Maybe I do want to add a little stripe here, and then tear that off there, and then I'm going to add a little stripe on, I could do this side since we had it crooked. We'll do that, and that'll even it up maybe. So let's just see there. Okay. I do like that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so now I'm just going to come in. I had tried a little stencil in here and I didn't like it, so I'm just going to come in with my distress crayon, and I'm just going to add a little bit of color. And this one is the Saltwater Taffy, And it came in the set with these other two, this purple and this blue. I can't remember the colors, the names of those colors. We'll look in just a moment and see. But I'm just going to take and rub it in. Now you do want to make sure that you wait until your mix your heavy body paste. I almost forgot what I was saying. You want to make sure that that is dry before you do this, because we are going to be rubbing on it pretty hard. But what you can see is the Distress Crayon just brings out the print of that stencil. I'm going to take my makeup sponge and just rub across to get some of that out of the creases there. And it's just going to help it to kind of show through. And I may want to go in with a little bit more. I wonder if we add just a little bit of the blue. Now this is the part where I said we are experimenting. And we just take this and just rub it in. I didn't mean to darken the white with it, but I'll take and rub some of that off. There we go. I kind of like that. And then we'll just do a little bit down here. And then I'm going to add some of the pink in, the saltwater taffy in, the peach. It's more of a peach color. I'm going to add some of it in as well. So now I have a thought. I'm very curious. I'm going to have to try it. Let's just rub this around first. So my thought is, what would it look like if we tried to stencil, put some of this on our sponge and stencil it? So let's just see what happens. Like, this is just, you know, book page that we've collaged. It's not like we've spent a lot of money, so you can really play around and not worry about it. Okay, I love that. So I'm just going to come back up here with a little bit more. And I've never tried sponging this Distress Crayon. I really love how it looks sponged. So that is really pretty. And we'll come in over here and add some. So we're just rubbing my makeup sponge onto the Distress Crayon and then just rubbing it on my stencil. And you get just a little design. And that's what I was saying. You just want to, I think I was saying earlier, I meant to say that you just want to experiment. You want to play and, you know, try out different products. Even if you feel like you don't know how to use those products, just play with them. You'll find new ways to actually use them. And that's what I find, that the more I play, the more I come up, just like this. I had no idea this would work, but as I was playing, I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. And I really love how it's looking. So now I want to flip it over to the saltwater taffy side, and I want to add some of that stencil, some of that color into the stencil. I'm kind of staying with the same stencil. Sometimes I use more than one stencil in a project, but I'm kind of today just sticking with the same one because I just wanted to try this one and use it. So it's very faint and light, but we need some up here now. And what we'll do, we'll have these two areas kind of meet here in the middle where there was a gap between them. We'll now meet them with the stenciling. We'll have the kind of saltwater taffy stenciling go into the blue stenciling because it doesn't show up as much. It really is faint. We need to do something over here, so let's just add a little bit of that did I tell you what color this blue was? It's called Uncharted Mariner. Uncharted, I can't even see today, but it's called Uncharted Mariner. And let's add a little bit of the peach down through here. Just adding a hint of color now with this because I don't think the stencil is going to show up much, but we could try the blue. I think the blue will, just a little bit over here. I don't think the saltwater taffy is dark enough to show up through the stencil on such a small little area. So it's just adding some color to the background. I want to add a little bit over here as well. You just have to stand back and look at it and see what you want to add and where you want to add it. I would use the purple, but I don't have any purple in this, and so I don't think that would be a great idea. Let's see. I feel like we need some blue down here, a little bit more. So I'm just going to rub it on my Distress Crayon again and get me a bunch on there. And then you could do the same thing with your finger when you're rubbing it in. But I think with the stencil, you're going to need the makeup brush or the makeup sponge, or any sponge, like you know, an actual Tim Holtz sponge. Any of that would work to do this. But I just grab what's on my desk sometimes and just use it. I don't always plan ahead either because I'm always just experimenting. Okay, so I'm liking that. I do like how that looks. And then I just want to add a little stenciling down here as well. And I do want it to be kind of dark. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to come up to here just a little bit along the edge of this washi with some stencil, just a light bit, a light of blue. Tighten that up just a little bit. I think that needs to be, so you can just come back and just rub it off because we haven't sealed it yet. I am going to seal this with Decoupage glue. So while it is still not dry and not sealed, I'm just going to take a little bit off. I think I like that better. I'm going to do the same thing up here. Just having to rub kind of hard to get it off, but I think it's almost set in up here. Okay, so I like that. So now let's use our rub-ons and see what we can do. So I've already used several of these rub-ons in some projects, so I just have, I've got some of the sheets still left, so we'll see which ones we want to use on each of the sides. I do like some wording, but I don't know if I want wording on this side or the other side. And I do want to add some butterflies and maybe some flowers, maybe a flower here. Okay, so this is the hard part because I'm always nervous that I'm going to put these in the wrong spot because there is no, as far as I know, there is no removing these. Once you put them down, they are there for good. So I'm thinking right in here, and then if let's pick out some butterflies first. We'll just kind of lay this out and then we will rub them on. Put one there, maybe. We'll just lay it out and see. Maybe over on the edge here, and maybe right going up through here. And then we have that one down there. We'll just leave on there, and that might look cute. And then we can add in, we'll add in some of these. Where is the sheet? Where it just has the wording and the dots. We may try some of that on the edge here. But let's go ahead and start with this butterfly. I think I wanted more right in here. Okay, and then we're just going to use the little tool that comes with it, and you're just going to rub until it releases. And you will notice it releasing. As you're rubbing, you will see it'll start looking different. I actually like using the bottom end versus this end. And it, like I said, I just play and experiment, so don't hold me to that. The company probably says to use this end. So you try and see what works best for you. But for me, I seem to get a better, smoother pressing with it when I do it this way. So I just do what works for me. There we go. They got butterfly there. Ooh, that's so pretty. So where do we want this one? That one's maybe, do we want to make there? Going up through there? We'll try it and see. And I forgot to take that off. I hope that doesn't rub off. I'll try not to rub over it. I don't know if you can see on camera when it starts releasing, but what I do is I just start, lifting one of the corners to see, and then just continue to press it really hard. For me, I feel like it's having to be pressed hard. It may not be that hard, but you don't want to tear it up either, so you want to be real careful with it. So that's pretty. And then this one, I think I'm not going to put it all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to have it more right in here. Maybe like once I got it off, I can see it. I want to put it, I kind of want to overlap the washi tape, but I also want to put it a little higher. And then we're just going to press it down. So I wanted to show you, can you see the difference here? I don't know if you can on camera. You see how this is a lot lighter and these parts are darker? So that's how you know it's starting to release when you're rubbing it. So like you can see here, this leaf, you can see the different color where it's lighter here and then darker. That's from where this is still attached, and attached to the plastic, the darker is, and the light is now attached to the paper and not the plastic. So when you start seeing that, you can just keep working your way up, and that's how you know that it has released. And like I said, I lift mine up a little bit, but you want to be very careful when you lift it that you don't pull any of your things loose and they're not attached to the paper. So you can just gently pull up, see that everything is attaching, and then just release it. That is very pretty. Okay, so what I think I'm going to do is come in with some of this, some of these, I'm just going to trim them off. I was going to lay it on there, but I'm just going to come up with some of these colors to take and kind of blend the, let me just cut a little here, blend the tape in with the page. that makes sense. I'll show you in just a second. I'm not even worried about where I'm cutting this one because it's just going to add a little bit of color. So I'm just going to take and put it here so that it crosses over from the tape onto the page so that it kind of blends that tape in. I think in second thought, I'm wishing that I hadn't have torn the tape, that I'd left it solid, but it's too late to go back and fix it now. So we're going to leave it and I'm going to be fine with it. I can't find the plastic piece. Here it is. So I'm just going to rub this on real quick. Okay, so I found that what I like better is holding it like this and rubbing up and down. That seems to be a lot faster to get everything rubbed down. So maybe I was before doing a little wrong holding it that way. So let me just finish rubbing this on. There we go. Okay, so I really like that. So that is helping the washi tape to blend in where I had decided to tear it and then I'm not as happy. I think that's helping blend in some. I'm going to add a little bit what's left on here right here. I felt like the edge needed tearing just a little bit more, so I went back and I did tear a little off of my washi there because I felt like having the torn edge and then a straight edge just wasn't going together. So then I'm just going to come back and just blend in a little bit of blue where the white line is where I tore the washi off. And that's what you have to do. You just have to see what looks good to your eye and keep going. And you may not want yours anything like this, but this is just the idea of how to use these products to create something like this. I had an accident when I was trying to get this one, getting ready for this one, but that's okay. It got torn a little bit. That's okay because I had already had an idea how I want to do this one once I looked at it with all these different pieces collaged together. I want to take my washi tape and I just want to run it along the edges here. And so I want this one to come to the edge of that paper. It's just an idea. So if you didn't have your paper collaged like this, you could just do yours this way. And well, I actually think I want it to keep going. I'm going to just add a little bit in right there, and I'm going to keep going to the edge. I think that'll be the best idea. I'll just line it up and have it go right there to the edge. That might be a better idea. And then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to have it go from the edge to the edge of the stenciling. Kind of like that. And so I tore it down kind of to follow the line of the stenciling. And let's see, what else did I want to add? Oh, I have this one, the smaller washi. So I'm just going to have it come down along this edge. And then I need to get something to trim it off right there. So I don't want to go over top of that other one. And then we're going to take it and we're going to go down through here. Kind of letting the paper tell me how it wants to be. I'm just going by the looks of this collage, how it turned out. And I don't want to go across that edge there. I just want to trim it off right there. There we go. So that is a good start for this one. You just have to, oops, I trimmed that too much. So you just have to start somewhere and to figure out what you're going, you know, how you're going to do this. Let me trim that off, right? I accidentally cut it. And you have to just start somewhere, start laying down your tape or holding your tape over it, your washi tape over it, and just go for it. Okay. So let's bring out our stencil and our makeup sponge, and we're going to go back with our distressed inks, or not distressed inks, excuse me, our distressed, you could do this with distressed inks. I'm doing it with a distressed crayon just because I want to play with the distressed crayons, but I do have that color in distressed ink, and that would be pretty to do as well. And I may have, I'll have to look to see what other colors I have in distressed ink if I feel like we need more on here, because I could add a little brown. I think I have some different darker brown colors. There we go. There's just a little bit there. Maybe we're going to do a little bit more. Okay, so let's just add a little bit more over here. Just let it get lighter as it goes over here. I'm being a little rough with the stencil. Hopefully I'm not messing it up. And we'll add some blue right in here. I keep getting off camera. I keep pulling it closer and closer towards me. Trying to remember not to do that. time I put down the washi tape so I could stencil over it if I wanted to. And then we'll put a little bit down here with this one. So this is the only 3 distress crayons that I have because I just wanted to give them a try the other week, or the month I guess I should say, and I ordered them, but now I'm wanting more, so I'm going to have to get me some more colors in. It's kind of, just going to darken that a little. They get kind of addictive. I've had fun playing with them. I've made cards using them, and then using this technique with the sponge I really like as well. I'm trying to just darken up the stenciling just a little. And now let's add in some of our saltwater taffy. I'm going to try doing it through the stencil again on this side, but I don't think it's going to show up. So I'm going to bring in some ground espresso with my stencil. I'm just going to add a little bit around, and let's see, I'm just going to use the side of this sponge here and just add a little bit around. Just dabbing it so that it just has a hint of it, hopefully. So yeah, there's a little hint. We'll put a little hint down here of it. And then I'll put another little hint of the ground espresso down here. I totally forgot about my inks. So I think that looks good too. And then we'll put a little bit up here because there is brown in the washi tape, so I think it's kind of good to bring in some of the brown. Okay, so I have everything laid out like I want it, I think, so I'm just going to start rubbing things on. So let's just attach this one up here, and I like it to overlap some pieces. So it's overlapping this paper where it's torn, and it's also overlapping the washi tape. I just like overlapping things. Oh, that looks so good. I love that there. So now let's add our flower here. So when you pull it off of the white, you can kind of lay it out before you put it down to make sure you got it in the right spot, because then you can see through it and see where it's going. So let's just press that down. Once these are down, I think they're down though. Once you decide where you're going to put them and you start rubbing them, I don't think you could get them back off. So be sure you know where you want them when you put them down. There we go. That's very pretty. Okay, and then we'll add this one here. Let's add the memories first, so that memories to cherish first. That way we can see what else we need. Okay, so I have to say that the wording, I probably should have went with a darker color because it really blends in with this, but it can be just a faint wording in the background. It doesn't have to be popped out anyway. So then I'm just going to add some of this again. I think I'm just going to hold it up here. Maybe I'll just use this paper here to, keep it from getting on anything. And then I'm just going to add a little bit, just adding a little bit of color in here. And then when I rub it though, I want to be careful not to rub it onto this. I don't know if it would release onto it or not. So I'm just going to rub where the white paper is not. Ooh, look at that. That looks so good. So let's just press that down. I did run over my words, but that's okay. Everything's just blending together. That's all right. And you see that was a little peeled up when I pulled it off, but that's okay. I just pressed it down with this tool. You just have to be really careful. You don't want to peel it off. If it was raised up, it may start peeling off, so I don't know how easy it would. I think it would just destroy it. So that's what you want to just make sure that you take and just really careful with it when you're trying to press it down. I'm just adding some of the wording and colors around the page, just sort of so it all kind of blends together. And you could bring out your paints and your acrylics or whatever and add some color as well. And I am wondering if I want to add any splatters. I think that's very pretty. I really like it. So let's work on the flap, and then we can put this together. So for the flap, I'm just going to be adding washi, this wider washi tape on it, and I think what I'm going to do is just add it in several different places. So I love how this looks. I want to add a little bit of stenciling, and then we will add some rub-ons, and this one will be done as well. So let's just add a little bit in. Just dark in some areas and light in some areas. I don't want it to be too much there. Then we'll just put a little bit. I think this might be covered up anyway when we sew it together, but we'll put some right here because this won't be. This will show. That's a little bit of stenciling there. And then let's pull in just a little bit of the peach, or I keep calling it peach. It's saltwater taffy is what it is. So I'm just going to add a little bit in just to get that color mixed in here. It's so light. The saltwater taffy is so light that it doesn't show up a lot. It's just a hint in the background. See if I can get a little bit down in here of it. I may just have to take my finger and rub it on. Just getting it in there. Just do it like that. And then rub it. Okay, and maybe a little in here. It's very faint there, but. And then we'll just come back with a little bit of the dark and just a few spots on our stenciling. On our, goodness, what am I trying to say? On our heavy body paste. We just add a little bit of color there. And so then now let's see which rub-ons we want to add. If we want to add like a butterfly, since there is a butterfly here, we only need 2 more. I'm wondering though where we want to put them. Like right in. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead and decoupage these. So I'm just going to be using the Pentart Decoupage Varnish and Glue, and I'm using the matte finish. Oops. And I shook it just a little bit before I opened it. That's why it was running out like that. I was shaking it up because I'd had it for a while and I had not used it, and it had been in the cabinet, so I want to make sure I shook it up so everything was mixed up good. And you're not going to take much to put this on. You're just putting a light coating over everything just so it all kind of blends together and it helps hold everything down. And it will dry clear. So like over that butterfly, you can see there's a little bit of white. It will dry clear though, so don't worry about that. So all of my pieces are now dry. So I just want to decide now, you have your front and back pouch or envelope pieces, and then you have your flap. So what I want to do is, I think for mine, I want the flap to fold over this side. So I am going to have it on this side. So if I do, that means when it opens up, you'll reach down into here. So by doing that, this is going to be this flap is actually going to be attached to the back one here, and then this one will be free from the flap. So we need to trim a little off just to make it so that when you reach into your envelope, you have a little bit more room. So I'm just going to trim a little off. I just want it to be a little shorter than the other envelope. That may be not enough. Let's just take a little bit more. I don't want to cut into my butterfly, so I'm trying not to cut too much off. I didn't think about that when I put my butterfly on there. I totally forgot that I was going to have to trim it down. So now I'm wanting to make sure that I don't trim too much off. So then all we have to do is we're just going to put a little bit of glue to hold everything together. So I'm going to attach, now I could have had the flap going over on this page, but I really didn't, I just liked it better with the other one. So I'm going to attach the flap to this page though. So I'm just going to put some glue along the edge here. Just going to put a little bit just to hold it together long enough for me to sew it together. Now if you're going to just use glue on yours, you're going to want to put a lot of glue I'm just putting a little to tack it together. So I want the flap to go on the inside of my envelope, so I'm just going to put it up here on the flap. Now I'm going to put the envelope and just press down. And then, get that pressed good, we're just going to glue the envelope pieces together. So I'm just going to add a little glue around the 3 edges, and just enough to hold it together, like I said, while I am sewing it, because it's hard to hold it together and keep everything lined up when sewing. So it's best to just add a little glue, or I guess you could just paper clip it together if you did not want to sew through this glue. I'm not really concerned. I'll take it slow, and just in case I do break a needle or anything. But this sewing machine is specifically for sewing paper, and so I have needles and things for it. I use inexpensive needles and things for it. So we're going to bring it to our sewing machine, and hopefully I've got a good view where you can see. The lighting is not as good here, but hopefully you can still see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I think, on the side here of my envelope, and I'm going to put it in the machine. Let me see if I can bring it over here so maybe you can see. So I don't know if you can see, right here is the little line in my sewing machine foot. I'm just going to use that as my guide, and so the edge of my paper is going against that line there, and then I'm just going to stitch around because I want to stitch really close to the edge. Now I do want to make sure I've got mine on a straight stitch, and that I'm going to make larger stitches with it. Okay, so I'm just going to put my foot down, and then I'm just going to, so when I start, I do like to back up just a little bit, just to lock those stitches in. Now I have a lot of things on my desk, so I'm going to have to stop for a second and move some of that stuff, because this is fairly tall, so it's reaching some of the stuff that was behind there. Okay, I'm just going to turn it and sew again. So then I'm just going to keep going, and I'm coming up here to my flap, and then I'm just going to get the needle down in there, and then I just turn to follow the line of the flap. And really you're not sewing anything together right now when you're sewing the flap. I'm just putting stitches around the flap just for looks. That's all it's for. So if you don't want to have the looks of it, you don't have to put this. And then we're just going to keep going around till we meet the other stitches that we made at the beginning. And so we'll just lock them together right there just by using a back stitch. And then we have those done. So now we have one more spot we want to stitch, and if you remember, we cut this front one down shorter than the back one, and that by doing that we can come across here now and we can sew where the flap and the envelope meet, and that way we can just put a stitch across there to hold that flap on. Just trying to get everything lined up there. So then I'm just going to add a few back stitches in, just so my stitches do not come out. And then we can trim all the threads. Fold this over. We just got to fold our flap over. So I want to fold my flap so that it's right there up against the edge of, and we're having to fold where we added that modeling paste, so it's a little tricky. We want it to be straight. Let's see here. I'm just going to press down. Just keep pressing with our bone folder because we do want to get a good little crease in there. Now along here, I think since we're going to use this for a journal and we're going to be pulling our journal in and out, I think I do want to add a piece of washi tape along there and fold it over. So let me pull out the washi tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line it up across the top there. And then we could have done this before we sewed it, but I just realized once I got through sewing it that I want to sturdy up that top edge. So I'm just going to trim it right inside the stitching there. Let me trim this one right inside the stitching. There we go. And then we're just going to fold it over. Oopsie. Don't want it to attach to the back piece yet. So we just want to fold it into the inside. I don't know if I can show you that, but we're just folding it to the inside. And that will just strengthen the edge there. Let me get that flattened out. And that way we just strengthen that edge some, and it adds just a little design to it as well. And then in here, my flap, I did not get it quite long enough. You may want to get your flap just a little longer. I was a little nervous because I cut it long enough, but then when I went and added my butterfly, I didn't think about it. So I'm just going to take the washi tape where the flap and the envelope meet, and I'm just going to add it there to cover up that seam that's on the inside. Now you could also do this on the outside if you wanted to cover it up. I think I'll just let it go to the edge. Yeah. So I do like how that looks now, and I feel like that's protected more. You've got it folded over there to protect your, because you're going to be putting your journal, I don't know if I said envelope before, but you're going to be putting your journal in and out. And so in order to take it in and out, you don't want to this to start tearing. And I did get this a little short. I may have to add a little piece right there, but I think it's okay. And we fold this over. And like I said, you could add a piece up here if you wanted to. Now, the next thing is what kind of closure do we want? I'm just going to do a closure like I did on my other one, and I'm just going to put an eyelet here and then tie it together. So here's the completed pouch. I decided to add just a sheer ribbon to it and just tie it shut. And then I'll make a decision on the permanent ribbon when I put my journal in there, because I'd like to use whatever ribbon I use on my journal or in my journal. I would like to use it on the outside as well, but you don't have to. You can just mix them up. But I really love how this turned out. You can make these any size to fit any size journal. You can make them bigger or smaller. And I love how all of the washi and the rub-ons and even the stencils all went together so well. So I will link below to all the products that I used, and they all came from the rubber buggy, except for the book pages. Those are just old books. Just find your old book somewhere to start creating with. And they're very inexpensive, and they're so thick, these dictionaries are, that you can make quite a few things with one book. So if you're out thrifting, be sure to look at the thrift shops and stuff and see if you can find an inexpensive dictionary or other book. Music books do well as well. You could use a hymnal, anything like that to create your pages. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.